Hello everyone, March W13 here with something a bit different today, a restaurant review of a place in San Antonio, Texas called Restaurant Gwendolyn. And it's located right on the Riverwalk near the Wyndham Hotel. They have seating indoors and a few tables outdoors, but you have to reserve them. This evening, we are dining on the terrace overlooking the river. Now, this restaurant is known for using cooking techniques from 1850 and earlier, including the recipe for this milk bread, which I was told was over 200 years old, and it's served with freshly churned butter. They also butcher and use the entire animal from snout to tail. They don't use any electric gadgets. Everything is hand cranked, hand chopped, and everything. So I elected to have the grand tasting, which is 7 courses with a beverage pairing, starting with this amuse-bouche, which was a Cuban sandwich. And my experience with wine pairings is that they either work really well or they don't. And in this case, it was the former, fortunately. All the pairings were great. The American Riesling here was surprisingly good and perfect acidity to cut through the fat and unctuousness of the Cuban sandwich. Just a perfect bite. Now, the menu changes regularly. This is just what they were serving in October of 2020, but the chilled mushroom cream soup here was even better than it sounds. It was almost milkshake-like, but in a good way. And to pair it with a Chardonnay, which wasn't over-oaked in my opinion, was sort of a cream-on-cream kind of pairing that worked really well. And then in the next course, we had a sort of pink-on-pink kind of pairing, a classic rosé wine from Provence. I'm not a huge fan of watermelon, but the sort of lightly pickled and sweet nature of this watermelon was gorgeous, and the charred flavor of the okra accompanying it may sound like a strange combination, but it was a truly unforgettable flavor adventure. And it was a particularly warm and muggy night for October, but still a nice ambiance and certainly safer given the ongoing global pandemic to eat outside. Now, the chicken with orzo was possibly my least favorite dish of the night, not because it was bad, but simply because it was a bit unmemorable, but nonetheless very good. Definitely had a good bit of acidity, including the gastrique. And again, I thought the wine pairing was quite good. Some wouldn't pair chicken with Pinot Noir, but I felt the acidity here really lent itself to the Pinot pairing. And for this palate cleansing intermezzo, I didn't detect much rosewater in the rosewater lime sorbet, but of course, as with everything else on the menu, it was 100% homemade, tasted like a Mexican limonada, very refreshing. And for this course, the seared foie gras was 100% off menu. The wine pairing was interesting. Usually with a foie gras, you end up with a sauterne or champagne or something like that. I actually felt this was perhaps the least effective pairing of the night, but I can understand the choice given the inherent fruitiness of an albarino. Now, the beef cheek ravioli, the server said was his favorite dish of all, and I have to say, as a homemade pasta connoisseur, it was just as you would expect. It was very, very good, very rich, and something. Sometimes for the pairings, a sommelier will go too heavy with something like a left bank Bordeaux or something like that. This Northern Italian red was a better compromise, in my opinion. And then this kombucha sort of came out of left field, but it tasted a bit like a pisco sour. It was pretty good. And then this final course, a lapin à la moutarde, the mustard rabbit, it just didn't sound good to me. But the homemade pasta was delectable. The creaminess of the sauce helped offset any dryness of the rabbit and the earthiness of the black truffle. And like everything else, the wine pairing was quite good. And even from the outside, I should say, you can view the action in the kitchen, including several glimpses of the chef de cuisine, Andreas Imhoff. And then for dessert, I'm not a huge fan of port wines, but I am a fan of trying highly aged wines. And this one at 20 years old, you can see some of the brown color and nuttiness start to develop. And overall, I guess it was a decent pairing with the peach cobbler made from local peaches. Although with all that wine, you may not be able to stand up at that point in the night. And then the check comes with a standard assortment of mignardises. Overall, I think this restaurant is an amazing value for the money. You could probably charge at least twice as much in New York or Vegas. The food is truly innovative without trying too hard, and the wine pairings are clearly quite thoughtful, on point, and they align well with my taste. So I'll definitely be back, and I recommend the same to you. But until next time, bon appetit. Marsh W13 signing off.